Let's like read science. And again, it's not like actual science, it's hashtag science. You know what that means? We need to get our music up. It's not hashtag science without the proper music. And of course, when I'm talking about the follies of the current scientific presentation, what else are we going to talk about except, guess what? Space. NASA. Space travel. So let me bring it up. And this argument, this article is particularly appropriate this morning because this article is not just about space, but it's about sex in space. That's right. And I've said this before in my shit, because I've said, hey, look, listen, if you're going to send a bunch of astronauts up in space, and they're basically going to be like living up there and stuff, eventually they're going to fuck. I mean, they've probably, I don't know, if they're really up there on the space station for extended periods of time, like, aren't they fucking already? You got these guys and dolls up there, aren't they having sex? Well, guess what? Either NASA and the Business Insider magazine listens to my show, or we're just, all coming up with the same idea at the same time, because they've addressed my question about sex in space, which is weird. So this fucking article, believe it or not, is entitled Space Tourists Will Probably Have Sex Up There, but They Shouldn't Get Pregnant, researchers warn. So hey guys, look, they're telling us now. I'm glad they're doing it because it's kind of like, I don't know, like a warning. It's kind of like a public service to say, look, if you're going to fuck in space, make sure you do it in a safe way, because if you get pregnant, there might be a problem. So do all the fucking you want while you're up there floating around in, the zero-G environment. Oh, come on, music. Don't mess up with me. Ruining my whole shtick here. You're breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. You never want to do that. You have to keep up the illusion, theater of the mind. Where was I? So basically, if you're going to fuck in space, like, use protection. Because if you get pregnant, there may be an issue. Let's keep going. Space tourism is blasting off, increasing the odds of space vacationers will have sex up there. Because if you're going to be in space, we're going to eventually have people up there vacationing, like on the moon, on certain space stations and stuff. So, okay, we're going to have people up there. And this is why I love NASA, because they got a bunch of thinkers there. They're playing out the scenario, just like me. So, hey, if you're going to have people up there, guys and dolls, they're going to be fucking. Is there any issues with it? Well, let's continue. If someone gets pregnant in space, the radiation could harm them or the embryo, science says. Oh. So apparently there's a bunch of radiation up there, which is harmful enough to harm them or the embryo, which is weird, because if it's that harmful, what the fuck are we doing up there? I mean, if it could harm you while you're fucking, it could harm your unborn embryo inside your body. Logically, wouldn't that also just harm you? Your anatomy and physiology? I don't know, whatever. Who am I? Maybe I'm asking too many questions. Let's continue. Space companies can end up with lawsuits and bad press if they don't talk to tourists about this. Yeah, guys, they're actually writing this. I didn't make this up. I'm actually reading you a mainstream science article. Let's continue. Let's talk about space sex. I see what you guys did there. Let's continue. So far, there have been no reports of cosmic coitus. But as more and more people are taking a pleasure cruise in Earth's orbit, it may just be a matter of time until somebody starts the 250-mile-high club. Oh, that was wonderful. Well, let's actually maybe check the facts here. It says more and more people are taking a pleasure cruise in Earth orbit. That's not really true, because all this like Jeff Bezos stuff, and how Michael Strahan, William Shatner, and all these people were up there and apparently going to space. It turns out they weren't really in space. Like it says the 250 Mile High Club. Now, although they say the International Space Station is 250 miles high, that's what they actually say. These supposed trips, these Jeff Bezos trips and otherwise, and Richard Branson, apparently the Jeff Bezos was the Blue Origin. They're not really 250 miles. They're apparently 62 or 63 miles, which puts them right up at the Kármán zone, which appears to be the demonstrable limit of, let's say, flight. So as you kind of just do a slippery little thing there where you say people are taking pleasure cruise is 250 miles high. Yeah, you kind of not really true. But anyway, let's continue. Since billionaires Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson raced to the edge of space 2 years ago, orbital tourism has taken off. Well, you see how you did it again? Because how you said edge of space, but then you said they're orbiting, and you're not really considered to be in low Earth orbit until you break through the supposed thermosphere into the vacuum of space when you achieve 0 G's. But, what am I? Maybe I'm just a little bit too into this because, kind of seems like when you apply too much logic to these stories, they kind of fall apart. But anyway, I don't know. Let's continue with the article. Branson's company, Virgin Galactic, is set to launch its first space tourists on Thursday with plans to conduct similar flights every month. I don't know. Did I miss something? Is Virgin Galactic launching its first space tourists? I can't keep up. Look, the space race, it seemed to have been stagnant for like 50 years. Remember, guys? Like when we were like, I don't know, doing the incredible. We were going to the moon in the late 60s and early 70s. Apparently 6 times we sent guys there, ending in 1972 with the final Apollo mission. And then for 50 years, like nothing. But then like all of a sudden, I don't know, recently, the last couple of years, like we're to the point where apparently Virgin Galactic is putting people up as space tourists. And now we got to worry about these space tourists fucking up there. Because it's like, all right, hey, you're going to be tourists. You're going to be on vacation. And what else are you going to do on vacation is to fuck. Hey, what else are vacations for other than fucking? It's like, look, you've been in a marriage. Things are a little stale. Your wife's kind of not giving it to you. Most people just say, hi, hey, honey, let's spice it up. Let's go to Cancun. Let's head over to Hawaii. I mean, even though we're just going to be fucking each other, we're just going to switch up the set and the setting, and somehow it's going to be better. Hey, if you guys are looking to spice up your sex life, what better place to do it other than space? I'd imagine if I shelled out the shekels to bring some lady up to space, she's probably going to put out for me. Hey, Christy Lee dolls, I know you kind of like to play hard to get and a little flirty. Let me ask you, Christy Lee, if Z shelled out the money to bring you to space, would you put out for me? I bet you would. Come on, Christy Lee, be honest, be honest. If I took you up on the Richard Branson Virgin Galactic space tour, you'd put out for me, right? So I'm just saying, they're going to be fucking in space. So I know why they wrote this. Let me continue. I digress sometimes. SpaceX launched its third batch of people who aren't professional astronauts into space in May. Wow. Hey, they got guys going up there. Guys and dolls. And look, billionaire Yuzaki Mayawi has booked a trip to the moon on the company's Starship mega rocket, which made its first attempt at launching to orbit in April. Entrepreneur Dennis Tito has booked 2 seats on a similar Starship lunar flight, one for himself and one for... So guys, look, it seems like there's a bunch of companies going up there, not only into orbit, low Earth orbit at 250 miles up, but also going to the moon. And it's not just these private companies, it's like these countries too. Fucking India's up there, China, Russia. It's getting crowded in space, guys. If they can shell up enough cash, wealthy people around the world can book a vacation beyond it, lasting anywhere from a few minutes to a few weeks. Some companies even aim to build hotels in Earth's orbit. There you go. It is unrealistic to assume that all space tourism participants will abstain from sexual activities. Of course, it is unrealistic. You're right, dude. Researchers wrote in a green paper on the subject earlier this year. That's why they argue spaceflight companies should be proactive and talk to their customers about cosmic coupling and its risks. I like where they're going with it, guys. Let's continue. If somebody gets pregnant on purpose or otherwise, there's a chance that the background radiation in space would harm a freshly fertilized egg cell, even if they're only in space for a few days or two after the act, two space researchers told Insiders. There's no telling how that would affect the rest of the pregnancy. So guys, look, if you don't want to irradiate the embryo, make some kind of, I don't know, hey, maybe it would give the guy superpower. The kid, you know? Christy Lee Dolls, are you up for it? We go up there, you and I, we take a little trip around one of these orbiting space hotels. We do the nasty, and we basically generate some type of super embryo, like a superhuman. I mean, they say Superman's powers came from like the radiation of the sun. We know that. I saw Superman 4. Remember the one guy? He got all his powers from the sun. It's apparently our Earth sun that gives Superman all his powers. Well, Christy, it's a no-brainer. You see, guys, this is how I'm going to get Christy Lee Dolls. I'm going to fucking save up some money. I'm going to work really hard. We're going to book one of these trips up to these orbiting fucking hotels 250 miles above Earth. We're going to fuck. We're going to make sure we impregnate her. I'm going to make sure you get extra radiation, Christy Lee Dolls. We're going to stay up there for like a while. We're going to produce like a fucking human mutant that's going to have some kind of superpowers due to the radiation. And we're going to like basically bring the world into a new age of transhumanists, almost like X-Men-like humanoids. The freaks, so to speak. Who's with me? You guys want to help out with this endeavor? Anyway, let me continue. These high-energy, deep space radiation particles. Christy, turning you on? Anyway, some of them pass right through the vehicle and through the people. And so, in theory, if one of them is coming through and it just happens to hit a developing embryo, what effect would it have on that? Look, hey, these high-priced NASA doctors and scientists, they're really using all their time and energy for, like, I don't know, a good cause. You know, like this Dr. Chris Lionheart, who leads NASA's research on medical systems for deep space exploration. That's an open question, Lionheart said, but the consequence of someone becoming pregnant in space could be very high. Right, like it could lead to a new race of superhumans. Supermen. Ubermen, Ubermensch. We might be able to fulfill the lifelong dream of the Aryan race and the so-called Nazis, developing in Superman. Maybe everything was leading up to this moment. Maybe they were developing all this technology to get two people like me and Christy Lee Dolls up into space. We have our little cosmic coitus, like the article says. We introduce a new species to the quote-unquote planet Earth. Come on, guys. I'm figuring it's all becoming clear here this morning on Z's show. Now I understand it. It's really just about me and my sexual desires. Well, let's continue. The dangers of unfettered space fornication. Yeah, guys, they're actually writing this. This is in the science section of the mainstream news. Let's continue. It may not even be possible to get pregnant in space. Aw, I hope it is. But it's probably not worth taking the chance. Or is it? Anyway, there's been very little research on the effects of space environment might have on the reproductive systems. That's partly because space research has long been dominated by government agencies. And we know those prickly government agencies, when they send those guys and dolls up there, they're not going to let them fuck. But you got Elon Musk up there. He's going to let people fuck. Look at Elon Musk. He seems like a kind of loosey-goosey type of guy. Remember when he smoked weed on the Joe Rogan podcast? He's apparently supposed to do a cage match with that weird guy who runs Facebook, Zuckerberg. So, yeah, okay, these weird three-letter government agencies aren't letting their astronauts fuck. But if you head up on one of those Elon Musk or those Richard Branson or those Jeff Bezos private fucking, trips up there, they're going to let you fuck. But anyway, let's continue. In general, NASA stays away from sex and reproduction questions. It's not truly relevant to the work that we're doing at NASA right now on the day-to-day basis. Yeah, again, they're actually writing this, guys, in science articles. Let me continue. Even when it has been relevant, reproductive health hasn't been one of NASA's strong suits. Engineers there famously asked astronaut Sally Ride if 100 tampons would be enough for 1 week space flight. Those silly NASA guys. Do you see? This is just another example of not only NASA's, inability to recognize these things, but also of the patriarchy. Because when they sent up the astronaut Sally Ride, they asked her if she needed 100 tampons for 1 week. Silly guys. Anyway, let's continue. Most of space reproduction studies that do exist are focused on rodents. So they have rodents fucking up there. That's good. Their findings may not be applicable to humans at all, but they offer hints that reproductive functions could be affected by space radiations and micro... How did you get the mice to fuck in 0G? I mean, that must have been something. What? It must have been weird. They were floating around. How did they navigate towards each other? I don't know. Sometimes it's best not to ask too many questions when investigating these matters. In one study, researchers put mouse embryos in an incubator on board a satellite. Oh, that's how they did it. The embryos developed in space but sustained severe DNA damage and had developmental defects. In other research, exposure to microgravity decreased testosterone levels in sperm production in male rats. In female rats, some female rats have mated during spaceflight, but then shown signs of early pregnancy loss. Aww. Some forms of radiation on Earth are known to have negative effects on human pregnancy. But the galactic cosmic radiation that we experience in space doesn't have a good comparison on the ground. It may even be risky to conceive within a few months of returning from spaceflight. The green paper authors argue, again, research is lacking. The uncertainty is enough for some astronauts to freeze their eggs before they launch into orbit. That's nice. At least they're taking the proactive step of freezing their eggs, these ladies going up there. Have you talked to your spaceflight customers about sex? And I got a big picture of Elon Musk. If someone does get pregnant up there, that person or their fetus could face complications. Failure to address this possibility puts space tourism companies at risk of reputational damage or litigation. Yeah. Or you could just have them sign a paper before they go up, say, hey guys, if you fucking have kids, we're not liable. Anyway, we're definitely not trying to say you should ban sex in space. Oh, that would be tough to do. David Collin, the lead author of the paper and professor of space biotechnology at Cranfield University, told Insider. Instead, he continued, companies should put in place procedures and mitigations to minimize the chance of sexual interactions leading to human conceptions. So fuck away, guys. Just don't get her pregnant. Collin and his co-authors argue that space tourism leaders should talk about the risks of acting on orbital arousal. Oh my God, guys. The way they write these things is unbelievable. Companies could require that their customers undergo medical and reproductive counseling or sign waivers about sex and reproduction before flying. Hey, guys, how could you resist zero-G sex? No matter what the risks are, even if you were just basically risking altering the human DNA and genome for the rest of human history, even if that was one of the risks, how could you pass up on the opportunity for zero-G sex? I couldn't. To build cities on other planets, we have to learn how to make babies out there. Hey, it's true. If we're going to build cities on these other planets like Mars and Venus and elsewhere, we're going to have to reproduce. So let's get going, guys. Those are just the first steps. If humans are to settle on other planets to become a multi-planetary species, a goal that Elon Musk has often touted over the years, someone will need to figure out the feasibility and risks of space, sex, pregnancy, and birth. God, if you thought pregnancy, imagine a birth in space. I don't know, space birth might be pretty cool. They have these water births on Earth. Imagine birthing in space, the baby would probably come out. Apparently these babies have like instincts, they know how to swim as soon as they're born. Maybe the baby would know how to kind of like navigate the zero-G environment of space. That'd be cool. That's why Colin and other authors of the paper are working on an initiative called Spaceborne United. Yep, they're actually getting paid to do this, guys. You understand, guys? There's like doctors and researchers that have a lot of schooling, and they're supposedly really super smart, and they're getting paid real money to spend real time to work on these so-called initiatives. Believe it or not. And hey, a lot of your tax dollars is probably going towards it, but what do I know? The company plans to try space in vitro fertilization first, using mouse embryos. That's nice. In 2024. But eventually aims to test on human embryos. And lastly, those are the stepping stones of research that would be needed to see how viable pregnancy could be in space. But he was sure to note, NASA has absolutely nothing to do with it. Oh, that's good. So you're not spending our public NASA dollars on it. That's right. That makes me feel better. Anyway, hey, space sex, guys. Who's with me? Who's with me? I mean, have you thought about it, Christy Lee? I mean, you might not fuck me here on Earth, Christy Lee, but would you fuck me in space? Would you? I'm just asking. What nonsense. It's nonsense, guys. It's all cuckoo. It's all bad for you. None of it's real. You're being presented with a stupid show. And the monkey music was never more appropriate, man. It's a clown world. You're being presented with a clown reality that doesn't exist, everybody. I come on here and I make light of it each and every morning, even when I'm extremely tired. But I'm going to continue to do it because I know with 100% certainty that what I just read you is completely bullshit. There's nobody floating around in space, guys. It's actually so absurd that it's mind-blowing. So I'll continue to come up here and make light of it and make fun of it, but make no mistake about what we're facing here. The level of the deception, the level of the lies, that this is what they're doing. They're painting a reality that doesn't exist. And you think you're voting for your leaders? You think your vote counts? Do you think you live in a nation, in a country that has borders and sovereignty? You think you're not just under one world order that has instituted pretty much worldwide control from the top down? You think it? Well, think again. So, hey, instead of just like focusing on the horrors of that reality, I'd rather come on here and make fun of it and laugh, and maybe educate people in the meantime. Hey, maybe express it myself. Maybe some of you guys get it, maybe some of you guys don't. It's actually horrifying. Maybe a little bit less so when we have goofy music playing and I do it in like a funny voice.